Carlos Hallowell, once seen as a vulnerable child mourning the loss of his mother, Denise, underwent a shocking transformation in the eyes of the law. What initially appeared as a complicated family history soon unraveled into something far darker. Carlos was eventually convicted for the murder of his adoptive mother, going from bereaved son to cold-blooded killer. Here's a close look at the ever-twisting and heart-wrenching tale that gripped a community. Carlos was adopted by Denise Hallowell when he was just 4 years old, from Guatemala. The early years were seemingly smooth. Denise, a single mother, took Carlos in and raised him as her own. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, sharing life's ups and downs like any family. However, as Carlos entered his teenage years, things began to shift. Their relationship resembled a seesaw, tipping between moments of peace and explosive arguments. Denise Hallowell was an educator and single mother who became known for adopting children with special needs. Known for her dedication to the education sector, she was seen as a pillar in her community. She believed in providing a nurturing environment for children who faced behavioral challenges or came from troubled backgrounds. Angel, the youngest of the Hallowell siblings, stood out with his gentle demeanor and piercing blue eyes. Adopted from Honduras by Denise just a year after Carlos, he had been a part of the Hallowell family since he was an infant. Growing up, Angel was the quintessential little brother, always curious and tagging along with Carlos. Carlos was protective of him, always ensuring he was safe and happy. Carlos felt a strong responsibility for Angel. They shared many heart-to-heart conversations, with Carlos offering advice and Angel listening intently. Their bond was characterized by mutual respect and understanding. Angel Hallowell's story is one of quiet resilience. A young boy navigating the complexities of life with the unwavering support of a loving family, trying to carve out his own identity while cherishing the bonds he shared with his siblings. School was not a refuge for Carlos academically. His grades were below average, further exacerbating his feelings of inadequacy. From the start, Carlos was an outsider. Carlos had friends, or at least people he hung out with. But these friendships were more like ships passing in the night, close for a brief moment but never really docking at the harbor. His relationships lacked depth, something that was noticed not just by his peers, but also by school staff. It was as if Carlos was wading in the shallows, fearful of diving deeper and revealing his true self. Carlos attended Seven Rivers Christian School in Crystal River, but was expelled his senior year for possession of marijuana. Carlos had always been a challenging child, but the real breaking point came when he was 17. Carlos has begun experimenting with drugs and alcohol. Denise tried to keep him away from those temptations, and he didn't like it. After a physical altercation with Denise, in which Carlos claimed to have acted in self-defense, he moved out and stayed with friends for several months. During this time, he began taking medication for depression as well. It seemed like a possible turning point for Carlos. However, Denise was far from reassured. She installed CCTV cameras in the house, clearly indicating she still feared her son. Despite reconciling and allowing Carlos to return home, Denise installed cameras. She might have publicly claimed that their relationship had mended, but her actions told a different story. She lived in fear, dreading the possibility that Carlos might harm her again. Imagine living in a home where your sanctuary turns into a house of horror, where you must set up surveillance to protect yourself from your own flesh and blood. What happened next was straight out of a horror movie. In the evening hours of July 13, 2019, Denise was found dead. Carlos Hallowell, who was the first to discover the crime scene and call 911, claimed that he was sleeping when the incident occurred and was awoken by the loud barking of their dogs. Though he initially maintained his innocence, claiming he'd never harmed the woman who had been by his side since he was 4, the evidence told a different story. When the first responders arrived at the scene, they found Denise dead of severe axe wounds in her bedroom, with the weapon still embedded in the back of her head. There were no visible signs of a forced entry. The initial stages of the investigation saw Carlos in a very different light, more as a victim than a perpetrator. Denise had previously made headlines in September 2015 when she was arrested and accused of physically abusing her younger adoptive son, Angel, who was only 12 years old at the time. The allegations stated that she locked the boy in a room and starved him. Both children were removed from Denise's home following her arrest and placed in foster care. Denise told investigators that her son had serious behavioral and anger issues and would frequently try to run away. However, Denise was released due to a lack of evidence to back these claims. Moreover, her second son, Carlos, then 14 years old, had defended her and corroborated her claims that the younger son had a troubled past. But after the accusations surfaced, she lost her job and reputation in the community. Denise then severed ties with her youngest adopted son when he could no longer be controlled. He was again placed in foster care, but as the interrogations deepened with Carlos, the tables started to turn. The dynamics shifted like quicksand under Carlos's feet, going from a mournful interview to an investigative probe. When direct accusations were made, his emotional control cracked, revealing his true colors. The turn of the tide came when investigators revealed damning evidence against Carlos. Think of it like a movie where the villain's alibi unravels, showing his true self. Contrary to his initial claims, data from his mobile phone showed he was near a lake when he called 911, not in his mother's room, as he had said. But the jaw-dropping moment was when the diving team found Denise's disconnected cameras and her mobile phone in the lake. Eventually, Carlos came clean, but not without exposing the eerie calm that often characterizes sociopathic behavior. When his intricate web of lies could hold no more, he gave in. He confessed, but offered an unsettling reason. The emotional abuse and strong adjectives from his mother pushed him to the edge. Carlos stated that he and his adoptive mother often disagreed and that she frequently used harsh words toward him. Their most recent clash was about his educational choices. He wanted to attend a technical college, but Denise had her heart set on him completing a traditional 4-year degree. As part of his confession, Carlos revealed that he was angry and took out his axe from the shed to sharpen it in the garage, as he intended to chop wood. But then, wielding the axe, he walked up to 57-year-old Denise's bedroom, where she was sleeping, and then blacked out, only to wake up to find her with the sharp weapon embedded in her head. Carlos Hollowell's trial became one of the most talked-about court cases in the town's history. Carlos Hallowell spoke at his sentencing hearing, telling the court that he would like to apologize to his mother. "Although she's not with us, I know she's listening," he said. "Mom, I'm so very sorry. Words can't describe how I feel right now, how much I miss you, and how sorry I am for what I've done and everything I've done throughout my entire life with you. I love you so much." 2 years after the murder, when he was 19, he was convicted, receiving a life sentence, and will be eligible for a sentence review only after 25 years. According to the Florida Department of Corrections, Carlos is now serving his sentence at the Jackson Correctional Institution. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the biggest threats aren't lurking in the shadows outside but are inside the home, hidden behind the facade of a troubled family. This case opens up conversations about mental health, the criminal justice system, and the grim reality that family bonds can sometimes conceal horrifying secrets. Do you think Carlos's turbulent mental state should have been a factor in his sentencing? Let us know your thoughts. Share this article to shed light on these important issues and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth investigations. Feel free to comment below and let's get a dialogue going about the complexity of crime, family, and justice.